All right, so what we have here is we have graphing quadratic functions. And again, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be graphing these quadratic functions in what's called standard form. So if you want to put standard form here, you can put standard form. This way you know that when you look back in your notes, you know we're graphing in standard form. Because tomorrow we're going to learn more about graphing quadratic functions. We're going to be looking at vertex form. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we need to graph this right here. We have this function, this y equals 3x squared plus 6x minus 4. And we have previously learned how to find the axis of symmetry, the vertex, the y-intercept, and all that stuff. And I told you guys with these, the best thing to do is find your axis of symmetry first. And that's what we need to do for when we graph in standard form. So we're going to graph in standard form, we're going to find our AOS. So to find our AOS is the opposite of B. So B is 6, so negative 6 over 2 times A, which is 3. So we have negative 6 over 6, which equals negative 1. So now that we found our axis of symmetry, we're going to be able to create an XY chart, right? So that's the first thing we're going to do. And what we do is we take that axis of symmetry value, it's an X value, and we're going to put it in the middle right there. And then what we do is we do 2 numbers smaller than it. So negative 2, negative 3. And then we do 2 numbers bigger than it, 0 and 1. So this right here again is our AOS. We put that in the middle. After we found our AOS and we create our XY chart, we now need to find the Y value here, because that's going to be our vertex. So to do that, we're going to take this negative 1 and plug it in place of X. So we're going to have Y equals 3 times negative 1 squared plus 6 times negative 1 minus 4. And we do have to do the math. So negative 1 squared is 1. So we have 3 times 1, which is 3. I don't know why my pen is not being very good. As always, disconnecting. All right, so we have 3. 6 times negative 1 is negative 6 minus 4. So we do this math, we get negative 3 minus 4, which gives us negative 7. So our Y value right here is negative 7. So we have the point negative 1, negative 7. Now we need to find the other 5 points. And what's beautiful about these, I mentioned before, okay, parabolas are symmetrical. So what happens on one side happens on the other side. So what happens down here, the values that are down here are going to be the same values that are up here. So it looks like we have to plug in a lot of numbers. Well, we don't really have to. What's really nice is here we have X is 0. If you remember, when X is 0, your Y is your Y-intercept. Well, we know our Y-intercept is negative 4. So we can put negative 4 there because C is our Y-intercept. And again, because we're symmetrical, if this side's negative 4, this side has to be negative 4. So look at that. Just like that, we have already found 3 of the points we need. We now need to find one more. So to do that, find the easier number of the 2. I'm going to use 1. And I'm going to plug 1 into X. So I'm going to go Y equals 3 times 1 squared plus 6 times 1 minus 4. 3 times 1 squared is 3 plus 6 minus 4. 3 plus 6 is 9. 9 minus 4 is 5. So at 1, we have the point 5. Because again, this is symmetrical. This is 5, this is 5. So just like that, we have 5 points. We're going to plot our axis of symmetry. -1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Look. There's our vertex. Now we're going to go 0, -4. And we're also going to go -2, -4. Again, they're symmetrical. We're going to go -3, 5. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we're going to go 1, 5. Again, as you can notice, these points are symmetrical. What we are going to do is we are going to create now our parabola. Make sure you draw your arrows on the end. So again, what you do, the first thing you do on graphing these, step number 1, you find your axis of symmetry. Once you find your axis of symmetry, draw your XY chart. You put your axis of symmetry in the middle, and then you do 2 to the left and 2 to the right. So we go 2 to the left, and then we do 2 to the right. So let's do another one together. We are going to graph y equals x squared minus 2x minus 6. So because we're graphing and we're in standard form, what we're going to do is we are going to grab my pen. First thing we're going to find is our AOS. So let's find our AOS. And again, the AOS is the opposite of B. So it's the opposite of -2, which is a +2, over 2 times A, which is 2 times 1, or 2. So we have 2 divided by 2, which is 1. Let's create your XY table. We put 1 in the middle. We'd go 2 fewer, 0, -1. And we go 2 bigger, 2, 3. Next, what we need to do is we need to find the y value of our vertex. So we're going to take this 1 and plug it in. So we're going to go y equals 1 squared minus 2 times 1 minus 6. 1 squared is 1 minus 2 minus 6. This is -1 minus 6. We get -7. So we have the point 1, -7. From here, now we need to find the other points. Remember, we are symmetrical. Before you do any math, I always like to see, is one of my x values 0? This one's 0, so I find my c, -6. And they're symmetrical, so since to this side's -6, this side's got to be -6. Now I just have to find the value of one of these two. And to do that, I just plug in one of them, right? I'm going to do the +3 just because I sometimes don't like to work with negatives. So we're going to go y equals 3 squared minus 2 times 3 minus 6. Remember, we're just substituting in the x value into the equation. We have 9 minus 6 minus 6. 3 minus 6, we get -3. -3. And those are our points. We are now able to graph this. So we're going to go over 1, down 7, draw our point. We're going to go over 0, down 6, draw our point. It's symmetrical. We draw them on each side. We're going to go over 3, down 3, 1, 2, 3, -1, 1, 2, 3. Now we draw our parabola. Make sure you do a better job than I did of hitting your points. And again, you should make sure, you should know, if you do not have a horseshoe type, you do not have the parabola, you did something wrong. So use that as your checkpoint. If you do not have your parabola, you need to make sure you double check again. Remember, it is symmetrical. This is my axis of symmetry right here. So on this side is going to be mirrored on this side. Same thing here. This is my axis of symmetry. Whatever's on this side is mirrored on this side. Let's do another one here. Let the selector, this pen guy here. Let's move him up a little bit. There we go. Shrink it a little bit more. There we go. Perfect. All right. Step one, we're graphing a quadratic. We are in standard form. Let's find our AOS first. AOS is the opposite of B, so that would be -5. Oh, I don't want to do this problem. I lied. We're going to pause. This is the problem I want to do. Sorry. So y equals -x squared plus 6x minus 9. So we're going to find our AOS. AOS, opposite of B, -6 over 2 times -1. So we have -6 divided by -2, which gives us an AOS of 3. We're going to draw our XY table. We draw 3, 2 less, 2, 1, 2 more, 4, 5. Now we need to find the Y value at our vertex. Y equals -3 squared plus 6 times 3 minus 9. So 3 squared is 9, but it's the negative. So it's -9 plus 18 minus 9. -9 plus 18 is 9. 9 minus 9 is 0. So this is 0. Now, this is one where I don't have x as 0. So I can't just look at my C and say one of them's -9. I'm going to have to actually do all the math now. So let's do y equals, let's plug in 2. -2 squared plus 6 times 2 minus 9. 2 squared is 4. -4 plus 12 minus 9. This is 8 minus 9. 8 minus 9 is -1. Those two are the same. Let's do another one. Let's plug in 1. Y equals -1 squared plus 6 times 1 minus 9. -1 plus 6 minus 9. 5 minus 9, we get -4. -4, -4. Remember, it's symmetrical. You only need to do the math. Now we have our points. Let's graph them. Over 3, up 0. Over 2, down 1. Over 1, down 4. And we have our parabola. Perfect. There we go. So sometimes we don't have x is 0, and you just got to do out the math more. All right. Make sure you pay attention to your signs on your numbers. The first step to do, find your axis of symmetry. Find your axis of symmetry. I'll move that all over the place. That's moving. Jeez. Okay. Find your axis of symmetry. After you find your axis of symmetry, draw your XY chart. Then you find all your Y values. And the only way to do those is you just got to start plugging them in. Just plug them in. Plug them in and go. Plug them in and go. Once you're done graphing, if you do not get a parabola, you need to make sure you double check your math. All right, so what I want you to do is I want you to try this one on your own. So try this one on your own. You're going to graph this one here. Okay. And then once you're done with this, make sure you show your notes to Mrs. Harris and she will give you your practice. All right, so try this on your own. So what I want you to do is I want you to pause your video, try this on your own, and then go back. So you should be pausing your video now. Okay, so this is your graph. Again, you should hopefully have a better graph than mine that actually goes through the dots. And this is the material you should get. Right? Make sure you were able to get this. It's another good example this one has where your A is not 1. And so really make sure you got to plug that in. So yeah, so make sure you show your notes so that you can get the practice and make sure you do your job. And yeah, you know, it is kind of tedious. You're just doing a lot of plugging and mathing, but you can do it. I have faith in every single one of you guys. All right. So good job. Hopefully you were able to understand this. And if not, make sure you ask questions where needed.